Welcome to English Literature for everyone. My name is Arushi, and today I will start Short Notes of African and Caribbean Literature. It is part of MA English Semester 4 in Lucknow University syllabus. If you want me to cover more such content, do let me know in the comment down below. Let's start. So, our first term is Négritude. It was given by M.A. Cesera in his work Notebook of a Return to a Native Land. He was a famous Caribbean poet and politician who advocated for African unity and creation of black spaces. The word negritude means being conscious about your own African culture and identity. This movement started in 1930s in Africa and Caribbean and took inspiration from Harlem Renaissance. In case you don't know about it, Harlem Renaissance was an intellectual and cultural movement of African American community in the district of Harlem of New York City. If you want me to do a detailed video on it, do let me know. So this movement was born as many people had a shared experience of discrimination and oppression. Cesara stated that people should look at their culture and history with pride, not shame. Okay, so this movement had a hint of Marxist values as it rejected European colonization and its legacy. The shame associated with the European colonization was quite heavy on African culture. However, there was some critic of this movement who stated that the negritude might promote black fetishization. One of the major critics of this movement was Vol Soyernika, who believed that when people show deliberate pride in their culture, they subconsciously defend it. Right? Essentially, if you have to continuously appease people that your culture is great, it means that somewhere you have this certain insecurity about it. A perfect proverb to understand his point of view is a tiger doesn't proclaim its tigerness, it jumps on the prey. If your culture is great and beautiful, practice it within yourself. People who will understand it will eventually come towards it, right? So, moving on to our next topic. Our next term is apartheid, which means apartness. So this ideology emerged in South Africa in 1940s when a political party in power created different plans for varying racial groups. So under this law, segregation became part of the society where colored South Africans were heavily restricted. They had to work or live in specific areas and they were not allowed to mingle with the other population, right? They were only allowed minimal education and had minimum to no voting rights. So there were four categories under this law: Bantu, that were indigenous Africans, colored, mixed race people, white, who were primarily the colonizers, and Asians, who were added later since they had immigrated to different parts of South Africa. Now, people of color had to carry proper ID and documents to enter restricted areas. Okay, you can read more about it in this novel. Sizwe Bansi is Dead, which is also part of your syllabus. The story incorporates a party system in a very clever way so that you can very easily understand what was going on back then. Eventually, this law was repealed and removed in 1990s and a new constitution was adopted that gave equal right to all people of South Africa. After which Nelson Mandela won the election and became the first black president of South Africa. You can read more about Mandela's achievements and write it about in your answer. Now, let's discuss the gender issues. So, women in South Africa are heavily subjugated, and to understand this, I have included some points. At first, we will discuss what is Article 444 in Congo Family Code. So, according to this particular article, it restricts the freedom of married women as the clause does not specify what measures can be deemed correct under the protection of a woman or what qualifies as an obedience of a wife to her husband, right? And it can often be misinterpreted, and many women have to pay with their own freedom in a household. They can be trapped in an abusive marriage. Secondly, despite being several laws to prevent child marriage, majority of underage marriages in the world occur in West Africa, right? There's a part in West Africa called Niger that has 77% and Mali that has 61% of child marriages. All of these data that I've taken are from 2012 study. Also, let's discuss the reason of these child marriages. So many poor families choose to marry their daughter instead of educating them because at first they will get money in return for their marriage, and secondly they will have fewer mouths to feed. Okay, now the wage gap between men and women is also 30%, where women are often at risk due to their lack of social protection. Basically, women who work at menial jobs or at labor-inducing jobs are often at risk of sexual and physical harassment. Also, Africa has very high maternal mortality rate, and women's education is also not prioritized. It is below world's average. So it is not surprising since many of these young girls were married off at a very young age, as young as 14, before finishing their school. While there are many female politicians in Africa, the inequality of quality of life is quite evident. So you can take examples from the novel Things Fall Apart or Purple Hibiscus to make your point. Now coming on to our next topic, diaspora. So when people of one country or region with a distinct culture of their own move to a different place that has its own culture, it is typically described as diaspora, right? Now, African diaspora was both involuntarily and voluntarily movement of African people and their descendants in various parts of the world. So let's first discuss what was the forced or involuntary migration. So the first migration began in 16th century with the transatlantic slave trade. It is estimated that around 12 million Africans were displaced from their homes. Okay. And as these migrants mixed up with the local groups, they partially lost their connection to their homeland. Also, colonization of these people resulted in eradication of their culture. The second voluntary migration came in the form of job opportunities, where many young people would move to different countries to go to a better school, university, and eventually get a good job. However, there were some people who migrated from their native countries so that they could have a better living condition, or they were trying to escape the political persecution. Right now, our last topic is orature, which means oral literature or folk literature, and it is often sung or spoken. It is not a written form of literature. In African orature, songs are important part of storytelling, which can be accompanied by dance or performance. It could be a theatrical act or it could be a dance step, which would help us understand the story better. Now, proverbs, riddles, idioms are very important part of African heritage. Some examples of literature are satirical songs or work songs that people use in different contexts. In orature, typically there is a speaker and an audience. A speaker narrates a story or sings a song. There are two kind of artists: innate artists who learn storytelling from their parents, while professional artist is someone who trains or has learned his skill through practice. Now, orators have an oral movement where artist and audience are interested in the act at the same time. If a artist narrates a story and audience is not interested, the orature will not be considered as a successful orature. Okay, and I've listed some languages where now orature exists. You can read about them in detail and add it to your answer. So with this we come to an end. If you like this video, share and subscribe to my channel. For any doubt or query, comment down below. See you in my next class. Thank you.